welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about gentle parenting and positive parenting, which is my take on how I approach raising my kiddos. If you haven't come here already, this is your first time coming to any of my videos, my name is Kitty. I've got two sweet little boys and I've got a bonus daughter, Jess, who's 10 years old, and my two boys are 2.5, and this little chappie who's asleep in my lap. So you might hear a few baby coos or some little sleepy noises, is 6 months old. So I like to say that I am just figuring it out as I go along, just the same as every single one of you out there who's hopefully watching this and might be able to get some solace in the fact that that's exactly what we're all doing. But when it came to raising my kiddos, I knew that there was a lot of unlearning that I had to do when it came to how I was parented, and I wanted to do things differently, but I didn't know where to start. So I did a lot of research, I did a lot of reading, I listened to a lot of fabulous podcasts, and then when my boys came along, I felt like I had to relearn that because raising boys is very different to raising girls. There's just a very slightly different approach when it comes to how they learn. So I will leave some of my favorite reading materials and podcasts down below, but I thought that it would be fun to share as a part of this series that kind of I might make it a 2 or 3 part series. What are the things that I don't do as a positive, gentle, respectful type parent? And then the next video is going to be the things that I do. So I really hope you enjoy this video, and I'm going to dive right in with. So just very quickly, before we dive into the principles of parenting that I don't go with, or I don't do, I don't sign up to, I thought that I would briefly touch on what respectful or responsive parenting means to me, and just in brief, at the end of the day, it's just a label, and you can label it whatever way you want. They were just the labels that made sense to me, but I want my kids to know that they are loved no matter what, no matter how badly they behave, no matter how many tantrums they have, no matter what sort of rebellious behavior they partake in as an older child or teenager, that no matter what, that I am their safe place and that they feel like they can come back to me. So when they're having those emotions that are just too big for their body, and they're looking for a little bit of guidance or support in terms of working through those, or they have that horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach of unrequited love, or anger, jealousy, awful darkness of mental health issues, that they know that they can come to me no matter how that looks. And that's kind of the core principle of how I approach things. And I approach, particularly with smaller children, I approach it in remembering, or at least trying to remind myself, that they are small humans, and that yes, they are clever, but we also need to approach it from a level that's understanding of what they are going through, and it being, those big emotions can be really, really difficult to process, and that they're not inherently bad. While many of us might feel like that when they're having those awful tantrums 10 times in a row. So that is the take that I have on kind of gentle parenting and my version of things. And feel free to let me know down below what gentle parenting means to you. But I'm going to dive right into now the first thing that I don't sign up to as a gentle parent. So the first thing that I don't do as a responsive parent is it might sound a little bit crazy, but I don't try and stop my kids from crying all the time. For me, when I think about it as if it were an adult or an older child who I was responding to, by telling them it's okay, by trying to distract them and trying to move away from that feeling, I'm telling them that their feeling doesn't matter, that feeling of sadness, that big emotion that they're feeling right now, is something that they should be ignoring and pushing down. So what I do instead is I remind them that they are safe. I remind them that I'm just here. I listen to how they're feeling. Sometimes will try and name the feeling with them. So if I've seen, for instance, my 2-year-old building a tower of blocks, and then the big tower just keeps getting knocked over and he's trying so hard, I will help him to name that feeling. Obviously in knowing that that's what's going on, and I will say, I can see that's so frustrating. Are you really frustrated right now? And sometimes then down the line I'll hear him say it back to himself. He'll say it loud. He'll say, oh, I'm just so frustrated. And it means that we can help to kind of guide and support and help him work through that big feeling, him knowing what that is. So yeah, that's the first thing. I hold them through those emotions. I let them know that it's okay to feel that way, and I don't try and stop that emotion from happening and ignore it. So the second thing that I don't subscribe to as a gentle parent is the idea or concept of a child being good or bad. I believe that children are inherently good. I believe that there are many different types of children. So you might have a very curious child, a very spirited child, maybe a more mellow baby. This idea of, congratulations, how are you? How are you doing? Are they a good baby? The answer is always yes. Perhaps your child needs more specific support. Maybe they need to be guided in a way that another child beside them might need a completely different sort of guidance or support. But that does not mean that they are inherently bold or that they are trying to go out of their way to manipulate you. A newborn baby, an older baby, cannot manipulate you. That is not what they are doing. They are looking to be held, and they are looking to be guided in this crazy world that we live in and in this new environment for them. So just briefly following on from that last idea of good versus bad baby or good versus bad child, when it comes to Santa Claus, again, we don't do the naughty and nice list. All children are inherently good as far as we are concerned. I would nearly go as far as to say that those children who are naughty or have behaved badly just need more support, or the more appropriate support for their needs, to get to the bottom of why it is that they feel they need to lash out like that, or they are not supported in the way that they need to be. So they just need the correct and appropriate type of support. And so the third idea that we don't do is the idea of constantly telling our daughter that she is beautiful. We have, since she's been really, really tiny, and of course she's absolutely stunning, but since she's been really tiny, we've always tried to give compliments that are not related directly to her looks. So for instance, we would always make comments on how, her concentration, how incredible and vibrant her imagination is, how she has been really kind and gentle to her brothers. Those ideas and taking the focus away from her looks and her body image means that not only are we setting her up for success and sort of reasonable self-esteem down the line, not associated to just her looks, because those are ever changing, and with aging and puberty and everything that happens around that she is going to have a sort of concrete, strong foundation of who she is and feeling good in herself, unrelated to her body. This one might come as a sort of a nice follow-on from the last one, but it also is a bit unusual, and that is that we don't adhere to you have to finish your plate before you get dessert. In fact, we don't adhere to you have to finish your plate at all, and oftentimes we will serve dessert alongside our main course. We also don't offer alternatives, so very much we've always had very non-fussy eaters, and what's on the dinner table is what's for dinner. Sometimes again, it's not always eaten, but we will always make sure that there is at least one part of the meal that our kids like. So that could be, if we're serving, chili and rice, that just the rice gets eaten. But as far as we're concerned, that's something that we're totally okay and totally happy with. The reason that we do dessert alongside our main meal is so that we don't create this idea in our kids' heads of there being good food and bad food. And similarly with the idea of having to clear your plate before you get dessert, or clear your plate at all, we trust our kids in their abilities to tell us when they are satiated, when they are full, when they don't need any more food, and not to override that feeling, and overeat or encourage overeating, and to really tune into their bodies and eat quite intuitively. This was something that I, in particular, I'm very passionate about as somebody who has struggled with an eating disorder as a teenager and really wanted to do what I could to set my kids up for a positive and healthy relationship with food. Food is everyone can agree with me that it's such a gorgeous way to come together as a family. It's such a gorgeous way to have an opportunity for communication and chatting about your day and enjoying your food, and having it be something positive to look forward to is something that was really important when it came to us raising a family. So the fifth thing that I don't do, and this might come as a bit of a surprise if you follow me over on Instagram, you'll see that I do a lot of invitation to play, sort of Montessori style toys, that sort of thing. But actually, I don't, and make a point of not entertaining my kids all day, every day. I love to see the work, because play is work for kids, that happens when you set them up to play and then step back, when you see their imagination just totally coming out, when you watch them playing on their own independently, and how much learning can come from it. It's a really important part of their education, and actually when it comes to educating our kids formally, we have decided that really up until the age of 5, it's not something that we're even remotely interested in. So we do our best to have open-ended toys, lots of Montessori style toys. We also rotate our toys, so we will do that kind of maybe monthly, to keep things kind of interesting. Occasionally, if I have the energy, I will set up like an invitation to play or a craft or an activity. Generally, I do it in the morning, so it means that I can kind of have my hot cup of coffee while I'm sort of supporting or encouraging that kind of play. But it's been hugely beneficial for my children's independence, but also their ability to just be on their own in their own space, and also great for me. So I will do my best in terms of kind of promoting that sort of play, to either start playing with them and then slowly edge my way out, or just set up the play and let them start themselves. Along with that, if my babies from when they are teeny tiny, good morning, are interested in something, whether that is the pasta colander or the cheese grater, or the, maybe not cheese grater because you could cut your fingers, I'm trying to give an example, a wooden spoon, instead of being like, no, you can't touch that, you can't play with that, mummy's doing whatever, I will sit back, let them figure it out, put the colander on their head, have a little munch on the wooden spoon, maybe bang the spoon on some pots for a little bit, and sit back and let that learning unfold, and let them figure it out on their own. And that in itself, along with the idea of sort of open-ended toys that aren't only for one function, so like that, lots of blocks, lots of peg people that can be used in different scenarios, that type of thing. So that has really made it a lot easier for me in parenting as well, so I can get the dishes done or the laundry folded, that kind of thing, while they are playing independently on their own. I'm going on a rant. Independent play. So the second to last thing is that I don't use baby language around my kids. Of course, sometimes it does come out, but I, for the most part, make an effort to use the actual proper wording and, use adult words. We don't use any goo goo gaga. We don't have kiddies' versions of words for actual things. So if I was explaining to Atticus that we are making a smoothie using the smoothie maker this morning, using the blender, I wouldn't say it's the whizzy uppy thingy that goes roundy, or whatever. I would explain to him what it does, why it does it, and this is what it's called. And that, paired with lots of reading, we would read an average of about 5 books a day, has meant that his language is pretty incredible for his age. And I really put it down to that. I put it down to reading, and I put it down to just using proper language and not using baby language. So the very last thing is quite possibly the most important when it comes to how we approach parenting and our kind of parenting style, and that is we don't do time out. So we always will do kind of consequences to actions in our house, but we don't do time out where our child has to go and sit on a step on their own. So to give kind of an example of this, if, for instance, Atticus was throwing a ball inside the house and the ball was bouncing off the walls, and I just knew it was going to hit something, and we actually don't allow balls or throwing in the house whatsoever, that instead I would do kind of like a rule of three. So I would approach him, I would get down to his eye level, and I would explain to him that we don't do throwing in the house. I can see that you've really got some energy to do some throwing right now. If you would like to do some throwing, can I help you get your wellies on, and we can go out to the garden and you can throw around in the garden. That would be the kind of the first first port of call. The next one then would be if he continued to do the throwing inside the house and didn't express that he didn't want to go outside, I would get down to his level and I would say, hey, it seems like you're having a hard time listening right now. If you want to continue to throw inside, I'm going to have to take that ball away from you so that we can try again tomorrow. And in him listening to me and explaining that to him, if he continues to do that, having understood the consequences to his actions already been sort of preemptively explained to him, I will then say, okay, it looks to me like you're having a hard time listening right now. Mummy's going to put the ball away somewhere safe and we can try again tomorrow. So instead of there being like, you've done this bold thing and now you're being punished for the behavior in a way that is hard to explain for a child, we will then do like a time in. So generally in an instance like that, he will have a really big emotive response. He'll be visibly upset, he'll be crying, and he'll be having a really hard time because he really just wanted to throw the ball in the house and he really wanted to do it, and it's really hard to kind of work through that emotion on your own as a toddler. So we will do a time in. So that just means sitting down together, holding, cuddling, talking through it if he's ready, or maybe in a time later on. Generally we don't kind of do a debriefing in that moment. So now, as a direct response to how we have parented him up until now, if something has happened that he is having a big emotion for, instead of throwing himself on the ground, his immediate response is to come and run to be held, to work through that emotion together. So it's definitely working in our favor, and I'm sure I'm going to get lots of questions on this, but I'm going to address it in the part 2 in this little series, where I'm going to talk about all the things that we do as opposed to don't do when it comes to our parenting styles. I hope this video was a little bit of fun, and I hope that you found it interesting. I know I've been getting a lot of questions on the way that we do things, and I thought this might be a nice way to kind of address some of those questions. Let me know if you have any further questions in the comment section down below, and if you aren't already, go and follow me over on my Instagram page because I'm doing a lot more kind of daily stuff over there.